Imagine a world where it didn't matter what gaming gadget you own. You could play with anyone. A world where PlayStation, Xbox, PC, and even mobile gamers could all jump into the same game. No sweat. That was the dream of cross-platform play, right? Unity was promised, tearing down digital walls and connecting friends no matter what system they was on. But what if I told you that this pretty picture of gaming wonderland is a casualty of digital warfare? Just beneath the surface of today's connected game lobbies, there's a wild history of techno nightmares, boardroom battles that almost kept all of us stuck playing in our own console with no friends from other consoles. No, I'm for real. Like for years, the whole idea of playing with your buddy on a different console wasn't just a tech headache, but it was an argument that was probably worth $1 billion. Not talking about some simple switch that was never turned on. Nah, we're talking about fundamental incompatibilities and strategic standoffs that made crossplay seem like a total fantasy. The real story of how that fantasy against all odds actually became reality. The call for cross-platform play didn't start in a fancy boardroom with the execs. It came loud and clear from the gamers everywhere. Bedrooms, living rooms, and internet cafes all over the globe. Frustration was real. Why couldn't you team up with your best friend and your favorite shooter like Call of Duty or whatever, just because they had an Xbox and you had a PlayStation or vice versa? Why didn't get a new console sometimes mean waving goodbye to an entire online crew? Gamers was clear they wanted to be connected, no matter the plastic box under the TV or the logo or the graphics card. This wasn't just about making things easier, it was about community. It was about bigger play pools, which meant quicker matchmaking, more variety of opponents, longer life of the games we all love. The vision, a booming unified gaming world where the only thing that truly mattered was the game itself. Developers saw the upside too. A bigger audience, one community to deal with, and a chance to make games that weren't artificially walled off. It felt like a gaming revolution on the horizon, one that just had to happen. But the road to this connected future is way bumpier than a straight line. So the first major hurdle was just how different all the hardware is in each console. Think about a PC, PlayStation 5, and the Xbox, and Switch, and the smartphone. They're all built different, with different processing power, graphics cards, memory, and so many other things. Getting a complex game to run smoothly and look pretty similar across all of those, boy, that was a task for developers. Okay, the first mass hurdle was just how all these consoles are different. Think about it. A PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, Nintendo Switches, and even a tablet, smartphone is all the processing power, graphics cards, memory, everything was different and then some. Now, getting a complex game to run smoothly and look pretty similar across all those was a nightmare for developers. It often means making multiple versions of game art, filling in graphic settings on the fly, and tons of optimizations for each platform, just to get a decent playable version. And even then, you can still have big performance gap. A PC player with a super fast monitor, high-end graphics card might literally see and react quicker than someone on a basic console locked at 30 or even 60 frames per second. Right away, that brings up fitness question, especially in competitive games like Counter-Strike Go, Rainbow Six Siege, and any other ones. I would say Warzone, but them Warzone niggas on PC be cheating, so fuck them. Not to mention the input of the controllers. Keyboard and mouse versus controllers. PC players usually have an edge with aiming and speed of a mouse, while controller players often get stuff like aim assist to try and even things out. Trying to balance these without making one group mad or giving someone an unfair advantage is like walking a tightrope. Some game tries matching you based on your input, others tweak aim assist, but it's something people are always arguing about cross-platform communities. And behind the scenes, away from that, what you see and feel, the back end stuff, is a total maze. PSN, Xbox Live, Nintendo Switch Online, PC streaming stuff like Stream, Epic, each has its own private network, its own way of handling accounts, friends, matchmaking, voice chat, and keeping game data in sync. To make crossplay work, developers basically have to build bridges between these totally different systems, or create some kind of universal system that can talk to all of them. This means insane complexity with servers, making sure everyone has low lag, perfect sync up game states across networks, and were never meant to shake hands. And what about keeping everyone on the same version of the game? Literally, updates and patches are the lifeblood of modern games, fixing bugs, adding new stuff, tweaking balance. But each platform has its own approval process for these updates, its own schedule. A dev can't just hit a button and have an update to go live everywhere all at once. This can lead to a version mismatch where players on one system have a newer game than others, temporarily breaking crossplay or splitting the player base until everyone's caught up. Security is another minefield. PC being more open is generally easier to hack and cheat on, like I said, with Warzone players. However, consoles with their lockdown systems tend to be safer. Even though those can still be hacked, just not as easier as PC. Mix those players and you risk exposing console gamers to way more cheaters, which is a massive downer for game integrity and player trust. Building strong cross-platform anti-cheat systems that work well on PC without being annoying or slowing down console can cause a big-ass headache. Finally, all the social stuff. Friends lists, party invites, voice chat, even achievements or trophies, all that needs to be woven together. How do you invite a stream friend to your PlayStation party? How do you make sure voice chat works smoothly between an Xbox player and someone on PC? And what about cross-progressing people sync hundreds of hours and sometimes serious cash into their own accounts? They expect to take their unlocks, purchases, and progress with them if they switch platform. Making that happen needs fancy accounts linking and data syncing, adding yet another layer of serious technical work. With Xbox and PC is kinda similar, especially now since Xbox may just become a PC later on. That's the story for another day. Each one of these technical hurdles wasn't just a coding puzzle, it's a massive drain on time, resources, and brain power for developers, which can lead to a lot of wasted money or just a lot of extra money that the game companies don't want to spend. If the tech sciences was a steep mountain, the business and political side of cross-platform play was a minefield. For decades, the big console makers Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo built their empires on walled gardens. Their game plan is to lock you into their own ecosystem. Buy our console, play our exclusive games, use our online network with others who also bought the same console and same online network. It was a business model that worked, driving hardware sales and keeping players loyal. Crossplay in its purest form threatened to tear those walls right down. If players could play the biggest multiplayer games with their friends no matter the console, what's the real push to pick one console over another? Especially if one had fewer exclusives but could still tap into the rival's multiplayer crowd. Talks between game devs or publishers and the platform holders were often described as incredibly complicated, drawn out, intense. These weren't simple yes or no chats. They involved deep dives into contracts, deals on how to split money from in-game purchases made on different platforms, who handle customer support, and data privacy. Each platform had its own rules, policies, priorities. Getting all this to line up is massive to undertake. Money was and still is a major sticking point. If a player buys something in-game on the PlayStation but then mostly plays the game on PC using cross-progression, who gets that slice of cash? How do you manage digital sales when a game economy stretches across multiple, previously separate marketplaces? These questions had to be hammered out, often leading to custom deals for each big crossplay game. On top of that, just enabling crossplay meant a serious ongoing expense for developers. It wasn't just the initial setup, it was the constant testing, tweaking, and server upkeep, customer support from multiple platforms, all while trying to keep the experience consistent. For smaller studios, these extra costs could be just expensive without a clear sign that they could make their money back. X-Defiant. One of the most famous examples of this resistance came from Sony with Fortnite. While Fortnite was blowing up, being on almost every device imaginably, really shone a spotlight on the demand for crossplay. While Microsoft and Nintendo were quicker to jump on board for Fortnite, Sony initially dug its heels in. This led to a huge backlash from players who found their accounts and purchases stuck on PlayStation if they first played. Eventually, under massive pressure from players in Epic Games, Sony changed its tune with a cross-platform beta for Fortnite, and then slowly opened up its policy. This was a pivotal moment showing the tide was turning, mostly thanks to overwhelming players' demand and excessive games that push for cross connectivity. Even with a more open attitude these days, that whole exclusivity game hasn't totally vanished. Platform holders still use exclusive content, time exclusives, or marketing deals to pull players to the hardware. But for major third-party games, not having crossplay is crucially seen as a bad move, not a smart one, because players expect to connect with the biggest community possible. The power dynamic was slowly shifting from platform holders caught on other side to player expectations for some new, more connected way of doing things. Salute to the players. It caused the uproar in cross-platform play, and now it's in mostly every game. Gotta salute it. The move to widespread cross-platform play wasn't something that happened overnight. It was built up slowly over time, marked by true breakthroughs and relentless players from the game. Games like Rocket League and Minecraft was early pioneers, showing it was technically possible and proving just how much players wanted to connect. Even if it was initially limited between certain platforms like Xbox and PC, because like I said earlier, those two are kind of one and the same. You could argue it was Fortnite that became the battling realm that really started to smash down the highest walls. Its insane global popularity and being available on practically everything made the idea of separate player pools pretty hard to defend, especially when Fortnite was bringing in millions in 2018 or 2019. When millions of players are demanding something, even the biggest companies have to listen. Tech advancements also played a huge part. Modern game engines like Unreal Engine and Unity now have better built-in tools for multi-platform development, making it easier to get one game working on all sorts of different hardware, software. These engines give developers tools that hide some of the tricky platform-specific stuff, making the technical work for crossplay, while still a big deal, more manageable than it used to be. The rise of cloud services has been another big help. Cloud infrastructure provides the flexible backbone needed for managing massive numbers of players from different networks. Plus, cloud storage is super important for features like cross-progression, letting player data purchases and save seamlessly file them across devices. Custom middleware, special software is developed by game studios or other companies, also popped up to tackle specific cross-play challenges like unified matchmaking, the social features, and tough anti-cheat systems. Publishers driven ecosystem have also pushed things forward. Companies like Epic with the Epic Online service, Microsoft with Xbox Play Anywhere and the bigger PC gaming strategy, and others started building their own systems that don't care what platforms you own for things like identity, social features, and matchmaking. They were basically sidestepping some of the old walled-off wars. If you have an Epic Games account, for instance, your friend list and progress is put it in supported games can exist on its own, whether you're playing on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox. But let's be honest. Cross-platform play isn't completely solved the problem. As new hardware comes out and games get more complex, new challenges will pop up. The recent launch of FBC Firebreak, for example, had initial matchmaking problems tied specifically to cross-platform play, and they had to rush out hotfixes so players could actually connect. Baldur's Gate 3 just added a cross-play feature in their game, which is a massive RPG and one of my favorite games, which shows that even for huge titles, adding these features can be something they do after the game's already out. Many games still offer limited crossplay, maybe between consoles but not with PC, or only with the same console family like PS4 and PS5, and Xbox and PC. I keep saying they're one and the same. Microsoft. And the decision to put it in and how much of it to put in still involves a careful balancing act of development resources, potential player experiences, headaches, business strategies. Things are way more open than they were 5 years ago, but it's still a tricky business with some knots left to untangle. This whole journey has been a wild ride, full of technical headaches and business drama. But what's been your personal experience? What's the most frustrating cross-play barrier you've hit? Or which game absolutely nailed it for you and your friends? Let me know in the comments. The ripple effects of cross-platform play go way beyond just letting friends on different systems play together. It totally changes game communities and how long online games can last. Because Fortnite came out 7-8 years ago and it's still one of the most highest selling games and still makes a lot of money. The most obvious win is It's just easier to connect with people, friends, family, online buddies. They're no longer splitting up people by their hardware choices. The inclusivity has led to larger, more diverse, and in the end, more lively gaming community. Games that might have struggled to keep decent player numbers up on one platform can now thrive by pulling from a combined global universal pool from all the other consoles. The unified player pool directly leads to better matchmaking. More players mean shorter wait times, even in less popular game modes or during quiet hours. It also allows for more effective skill-based matchmaking because the system has a wider range of players' skills to pick from, which will mean more balanced and fun matches. Unless you're playing Call of Duty. Them niggas hate skill-based matchmaking. However, this shift hasn't been without its own community challenges. The fairness debate we talked about, especially with input methods, mouse and keyboard versus controller, and potential hardware inventions like PC having higher frame rates, is still a hot topic. While some games let you filter out crossplay with certain platforms, often PC if you're on a console, this can also split the player base again, kind of undoing the benefits of everyone playing together. Developers are constantly walking that tightrope, trying to balance being inclusive with what feels fair. And your bigger, more diverse online communities can sometimes, unfortunately, mean more bad behavior, like toxicity and harassment. Managing and monitoring these larger communities needs good reporting tools, effective rule enforcement, and ongoing investment from developers to build positive and welcoming spaces. You niggas are bitches if you're complaining about being toxic and harassment on online games. You guys could just block these niggas. It's an online game. Just block them. You'll never hear from it again. You guys will not survive the old Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1, 2 lobbies. If you know, you know. But then again, I see they do have to have the safeties for people being bullied and whatnot online. I don't know how to do it. But back to the script. I just got off script, but now I'm back on script. Okay. Anyways, from a wider industry view, cross-platform play is pretty much becoming an expectation now. Not just a nice bonus, especially for multiplayer games. Games that launch without it, particularly the big budget ones, often get criticized right away. The player expectation is a powerful force, pushing even hesitant companies to get with the program. It shows a shift towards a more player-focused approach, where convenience and being connected are super important. Console wars still exists, even though it's not as loud as it was back then. It's still out there, and when it comes to hardware sales and exclusive games, but crossplay has definitely softened some of that us versus them mentality for said experiences. So the real story behind cross-platform play is definitely not just about flipping a switch. It's a saga of conquering technical mountains, navigating some tricky business feuds, slowly painstakingly rewriting the rules of how we connect and play. It was a revolution gamers demanded, forward-thinking developers fought for it, and eventually, sometimes not wanting to do it at all, platform giants had to accept because the gamers wanted it. What started as a dream, playing with friends, no matter what console the machine was on, has grown into the industry standard. Though it's one that's still evolving, those technical gremlins still pop up, like when new releases need patches for cross-play matchmaking. Business side of things is still complex because them niggas fighting over the profit, let's be honest. And the search for perfect balance and fairness is always ongoing. But the main victory is clear. Millions of gamers are connecting in ways that were once thought impossible, or at least not profitable enough for the gatekeepers. The walls haven't completely crumbled, but they're definitely full of doors now. Cross-platform play really shows the power of player voices and how tech just keep moving forward. It's an unfinished revolution for sure. New sciences and cool opportunities like cloud gaming and the metaverse, promising even more ways to the broad lines between platforms. Real story is that the fight for a more unified gaming world was absolutely worth it. And believe me, it ain't over yet. It ain't over till it's over. If this look into the often hidden complexities of cross-platform play open your eyes a little bit, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more investigation into the stories behind your favorite games, your game consoles, and any gaming news. Don't forget to share the videos with your family, friends, cousins, even on other consoles. You dig what I'm saying? Thanks to this hard-fought revolution. Thanks for watching this video. I'm out. I'll see y'all soon. Peace.
That's all, folks.